my hands being red from just clapping and enjoying the music. And I began to understand the power of gospel music.
People are drawn to the natural energy and passion of gospel music, so much so that when it's time for the pastor to preach, many of them leave because that's not what they're here for.
On a Sunday morning, as you're walking down the streets in the city of Harlem, on any given block, you can hear that good old gospel music.
It was a music that spoke to the rhythm of our people, the beat, the pace, the music, the vibe, the harmony.
The gospel can be anything, any type of music that allows that particular artist to express the gospel.
Pulse of the church gets it from the music.
But I've heard of a city called heaven, and I've started to make it my home.
The roots of gospel music go back to the spirituals, the slave spirituals that really were born out of a desire to, one, lift the soul, but also create a space and an atmosphere of liberation through song and liberation through the lyrics. Those early slave songs communicated not only their hopes, their dreams, but their desires in real time.
I am trying to get in.
That was the way the slaves were able to get a message through. They would talk in their songs. They were traveling through the Underground Railroads and singing about stealing away, where the masters and the other folk could not know what they were talking about. But during that time, they were making the music and exactly a way to escape. They were finding their ways to slip away, to steal away. And during that time, they were feeling the connection with God, knowing that their liberation was soon to come.
It's a way to cry a lot, so that nobody knows how much you hurt. Because if they found out how much you hurt, and then they wouldn't let you do it because you wouldn't be able to do the work. So even if you're getting hit with a lash, you understand the music of the lash because you can share it among just the people who understand it.
Tossed and driven, Lord, sometimes I don't know where to roam.
They were an opportunity for the enslaved Africans to express themselves musically and to make sense of the new religion they were learning.
In gospel music, there is a message. There is a message where people are liberated, where people are saved and delivered and justified and sanctified.
There's nothing like the hymns. They just touch your soul. A lot of other songs may fade away, but you can always go back to those hymns like, "Oh, how I love Jesus." There's not a friend like the lonely Jesus. It is well with my soul. Those songs just pierce your soul.
Started to make it my home.
I really came to understand, and appreciate gospel music listening to the radio.
My first exposures to gospel was growing up in church and growing up with my great-grandmother playing gospel music in the house, and that was my introduction to music.
I never heard gospel music really until I got to college and saw a Hammond organ and keyboards being played in church. All I knew was grand pianos and pipe organs.
Gospel's made kind of a resurgence in the past few years, and there have been a lot of things that contribute to that. Spoken word has been a huge part of gospel. A lot of times you'll go to gospel concerts and you'll see infused in these gospel concerts these great, sort of gospel poetry slams that are happening in the middle of what were more traditional gospel concerts are now taking on a new identity. You also had a lot of different contemporary gospel artists really start to make a way for this new generation to latch on to gospel music. Kirk Franklin, Mary Mary. You even had quote-unquote secular artists have undertones of gospel in their music. Kanye West had a big hit called Jesus Walks that was bumping in the clubs. It was a #1 hit. You have a lot of young people that saw that and took that as, wow, I can express gospel music in my way too. So it gave a lot of just liberty and a lot of confidence, I think, at the same time, and also a way of having an identity attached to gospel that wasn't corny. It wasn't my grandmother's gospel or my grandfather's gospel, but it was my gospel.
Today, because there are a lot more young people that are, coming to church, I feel like that's going to make a big change in the future.
Gospel music originally was shunned because it was too linked to R&B, what they call R&B back in the days, or jazz, which historically wasn't accepted all that much when it first kind of originated in many quarters.
So many of our brothers and sisters that have gone on to glory or still around, they started in jazz, but they always would come back to the church. You have so many, you have Melba Moore, you have a Francis Jackson, an Evelyn Williams, so many that started back then always find their roots back to the church because they started back in the church, and they may go away, but then they come back. When they come back, it's like they never left before. You can see the spirit, you can feel the pulse, you can feel the nerve, and it just all comes together like sweet music.
I didn't understand the gospel till I got grown, and the historical impulses behind it, and the historical and the emotional impetus that made it a world sound.
When I sang gospel, I saw that there was no other feeling. I could sing R&B, I could sing classical, but no other feeling like gospel music.
I think that's the thing, the beauty of gospel music, is that it really doesn't have one particular style or one particular way to go about doing it.
Think of gospel music, if you translate it to good news music, music that shares for us the good news of the message of God in particular. In a place like Harlem, where you had so many genres of music and you had so many gifted musicians in Harlem, and Harlem represented music for so many people, that gospel became part of the musical backdrop of Harlem, where you had the jazz, where you had the gospel, where you had the rhythm and blues, where you had the rock and roll, where you had the classical music. So I think gospel music then, as times began to progress, became more of the accepted mode of musical communication in so many of our churches.
Gospel music, even though it is its own particular style, it influences other styles, but also borrows from many different styles.
We start with gospel, and then we show how the gospel came from the church, and then onto the radio station, and then it became R&B and soul. And we do all of that inside the story of Mama, I Want to Sing. It's my sister's story, but it's the story of American music. It's the story of Harlem, and it's the story of many other great, singers and performers in America coming through at that time.
I had a chance to play the musical director of a choir, and that choir was the Impact Repertory Theater. in a film called August Rush, and then we were nominated for an Oscar for Best Original Song. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe this was the first time that a gospel song was nominated for an Oscar.
There's far too many pressures in reality, dealing with the pain and stress of poverty, and I gotta be myself.
When I'm singing gospel, I feel fulfilled. I feel like I know that I'm in that moment.
Sometimes it takes a different kind of love to raise a child. Don't give up for me.
Mama's gone, daddy didn't wanna be, and now I'm all by myself, wondering where is up. Should I just give up, you know?
Life falls down on me, cuts into my soul, but I know I got the strength to make it through it all, 'cause I'm still standing tall, breaking through these walls. I'm gonna get my own.
You're like a motherless child, pain cuts into my soul. It's beating me down, can't find a smile on the face of a motherless child. Gonna break down these walls, gonna get my own. Yeah, 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 yeah.
People are coming from all over the world to Harlem to experience gospel.
We get all kinds of emails, people all over the world wanting to come to Harlem to hear the music.
It's interesting when you stand where I am on Sunday mornings, or when you're sitting where I sit at the piano on Sunday mornings, and you have the rows of tourists and they're just sitting there, and I'm very adamant. I'm like, hey, join us, get up, clap. And they're clapping on the 1 and 3, and I'm like, okay, 2 and 4, but it's okay, it's all right. It's not about that. It's just about the fact that you're getting the opportunity to experience this music.
Because it speaks to the rhythm of who we are. And the sensibilities, almost inherent rhythmic sensibilities of many people of color. So. Tourists from France or Japan say, they want to hear the gospel. Now, it's amazing when I hear that, because when I think the gospel, I think immediately the preached word, which is the gospel. Whereas when they think of the music,
we started the first gospel group for Japanese here in Harlem. This is where it started, under my late husband, Bishop Washington. And so you have Japanese that cannot speak English, but they can sing gospel in English, and they love it and they feel it. And when you hear music, gospel music, real good gospel music, it touches the soul. And so when you hear it, you don't have to speak English, you can feel the spiritual side of the music and the message.
There's a spirit that's working of love that's in that music, and God has opened up the avenues for the gospel just to be shared and heard, and that seed alone is very powerful.
Gospel music, it helps us to express the negative things that we have, but also the joys that we experience.
Yes, God loves me. Oh, yes, Jesus
do a lot of different styles of music, but gospel music is the only one, is the only style that really hits me in my core, and whatever comes out from me is coming from the pit, and it's really coming from my own true experience time after time after time.
Music ought to have the same impact, pushing people to a place where they seek to really pursue the possibilities that abound for them. Music that brings them to a place where they begin to look at themselves, maybe not just as they are, but as they hope and long to be. Music that lifts the spirit and lifts the soul, but also spurs the imagination to dream and to enable vision and to really, in a very passionate way, pursue all of the things that for some people seem impossible but become possibilities through their faith and through their confidence in God. Gospel music, I think, inspires that.
Gospel music should be able to touch the soul. It should really win the soul, and then the preacher from there, or the pastor, takes it from there with the word of God. It should go together. It should gel together. It should glue together, and it should make, again, sweet music.
Something about it releases me. I feel like, it's nothing like a gospel song. It's nothing like something that can make you feel that nothing else matters. I sing gospel and I feel God. You know what I mean? It sounds a bit crazy, but I feel his presence and I feel his comfort, his arms wrapping around me. And I feel like when I sing, that's my praise.
Jesus, he loves me. Oh, yes, he loves me. For the Bible, my living. Every day, new mercies I see. Great is your faithfulness toward me, God. When I walk down the streets.
I think the gospel, no matter what is fighting against it, there's always a need for it.
So the impact of gospel music will endure as long as there are people who still bleed, who still struggle, who still laugh, who still cry, who still feel joy, who know what it is to mourn and weep and rejoice and celebrate. Gospel music always will have a place because it speaks to all of that, the full human being it speaks to. So I think gospel music is eternal in many ways.
singer, and Harlem is gospel.